Welcome back, everybody. It is Wins Above Fantasy, episode 204, Thursday, February 26th. Steve, we are on the doorstep of March. We can't quite do our March quotes
Not
yet,
yet, not yet.
but we'll save it for the next one. We got one of the best shows of the calendar year, talking SP sleepers. 'Tis the season, and it's a topic, Steve, that gets harder and harder every year because the industry just sharpens up on who the guys are, what the discounts are. But we still got a handful of names and a fun show, maybe even a show we'll run a little long on to talk about sleepers. It's always a great one, and it's one that is very important going into March. So, yeah, happy draft season, Steve. Excited to get into this. I was telling you offline, but I've been ramping in. There might be some names I kind of zig and zag to, but we got a great rundown and looking at some guys for the most part beyond ADP 200. But yeah, talk to me about the topic, kind of the tricky definition of a sleeper that everybody talks about. But I'm excited to get into this, man.
Yeah, this is probably the thing that's the most fun or the thing that I've done for the longest as far as like fantasy research, right? It's looking for undervalued pitchers, like even before the prominence of Savant and Pitcher List and Fangraphs, like this was the thing to do to find value. At least the easiest way to find value with guys, just because we did have some quote unquote advanced metrics, right? Like things like whip, as crazy as that sound, but 10, 15 years ago, it was looked at as more of a nuanced statistic, right? And we would find little things to find these advantage of and find these SP sleepers and starting pitching sleepers. Um, that it's really, the thing that I've been doing here for the longest, as a fantasy player, analyst, podcast host. So it's always fun to get into. It's a loose definition now. There are, like you said and hinted at, there are no true sleepers. It's a totally different ball game now. There's literally Statcast data on every single spring training stadium now, right? Like that's new this year. There were a few stadiums that didn't have that now. So if there's a guy that has a new pitch that has an impressive spin rate, you're going to hear about it. It's going to be on Twitter. It's going to be talked about, and draft price is going to be rising. So, a loose definition as far as what we're considering a sleeper. No specific ADP cutoff, though. Most of these guys are on the deeper end. Just guys that we think will outperform their ADP, and some reasons why. But this is like we say on plenty of shows. It's a pictureless podcast. It's a pictureless website. This is what our bread and butter is, and diving in and trying to find some value with pitchers, no matter what way you can find it, is always fun, and looking forward to getting to it for 2026.
Yeah, man. And without further ado, yeah, I guess we should say this is based on February ADP from NFBC, but handful of names. Steve, you put in a bunch of kind of deeper ones, but one that I keep coming back to is I scroll the ADP list and just look for certain names that jump out as like, I can't believe that guy's going that late. Honorable mention as I'm scrolling like into the latter stages of the 100s. Trevor Rogers is one that we were talking about all last season. And he's one that I like thought about, dropping and doing the breakout on him. But we've talked a handful of times in the offseason. I think he is priced at the right spot to be a sleeper. But the one beyond pick 200 that is first to really jump out and grab me is Kris Bubic at ADP 215. And to talk about Bubic, I think we got to go back to like 2023 when he got the Tommy John surgery in April. If you remember, right before then, we were already starting to get really excited about him unlocking some swing and miss potential. He had some like delivery changes. He had a 9 strikeout outing, and then he had the TJ, missed a year and a half. Last year when we saw him, the brief time we did, it looked like he hit the ground running. And then, of course, he had a rotator cuff injury that knocked him out for a good chunk of the season. Even so, in the 20 starts we got from Bubic last year, he was really good at a 2.55 ERA, a 118 whip. It's a guy who has nearly 7 feet of extension. And yeah, when you look at the stuff, it's a little bit deceptive in a way because the four seamer is just 92 miles per hour. but again, it has that good extension, and the whiff rate is elite on the four-seamer, and the way it pairs with the changeup that also has just dominant whiff rates. I think Bubic is one that, like, on his day, the fact that he doesn't have huge command issues, the swing and miss stuff is great, the chase rate is great. I'm a sucker for extension, but last year, the way he started red hot with, like, through May, 11 starts, he had a sub-2 ERA, a 105 whip, strikeout per inning. Like, I think this guy is just such a stud that if you can get a healthy season from Bubic, which of course is a big if, this guy has the stuff that he could be a top 25 arm. And if the only thing we can point out is a health risk, I feel like it's already baked in at the 215 ADP. So, like, again, kind of what my approach is with Bubic is, if you told me it was 160 innings, which is the hope, I think he'd be going around pick 100, and yet we're getting him at 215. So all that health risk is baked into the cost. I feel like this is just a great shot to take for a guy that could be an SP3. We haven't talked about Bubic that much as of late. I know that I'm not the only one who likes Bubic as a sleeper, but I feel like 215 is still very much like a price I want to jump in on. What do you think about Bubic this year, Steve?
We were very much in on Bubic last year. I don't know what his ADP cost was the year prior. It had to be around here. I mean, it was only coming off 30 innings, but there was plenty of reason to like him. And I remember having him in, like, the 116 innings, like, it was almost free. Like, it was found money. Like, I was very, it was, thank you for the service. Thank you for the great 116 innings. Like, hope you come back healthy next year, because, like you said, it was phenomenal. That said, I don't think that you can count on like, I would project him for 100 innings, essentially. That's what I think I would, you know, put him down as. There's a few that have him at 130, 147. Zips has him at 106. I think I would be on the conservative side, and 100 to 120 innings in that range. Maybe 100 is a bit too harsh, but that said, I think it's pretty much a lock for a great 100 plus innings. And at this cost, like, yeah, he may not be around for the stretch run, or maybe he's someone they have to stash in the IL early in the season. But when he's pitching, I think there's a long enough track record now that he is a very, very useful fantasy arm. That said, you just have to account for the fact that the innings are not reliable, but it's not cost prohibitive at 215. That's a fine gamble to take. Like, there's not many guys that are going to be better banks for innings at that range anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think where I'm at is either there is injury there and you just pair his stats with a little bit of flexibility. Like, if there's an IL slot, obviously that's not the case for NFBC, but you're not, that's not a zero on those innings, but if he stays healthy, I mean, I don't think they're just going to, like, cap him at 100. Right. So it's, injuries for pitchers is so hard to predict, but I feel like he's one that if it goes well and they're kind of, pulling him after 5 strong innings, we might see 135. Like, I don't think that that's unrealistic. Like, I feel like guys who have these prolonged injuries, like, you're aware of it going into the off season. So, I mean, we'll see. Definitely a heightened risk of injuries, but yeah, I think Bubic is a great option. Steve, do you want to hit on your first one before we come back to me, just so we can balance it out?
Let's go in your order. I think we're in ADP order here, so, like, it's we're going down the line. So
okay,
happy to stick with you.
Right on. Okay, so the next one, this is again recalling to last season, but even with all of the kind of stuff models fading, Logan Henderson at pick 274. This was a guy that last year we were excited about when he got the call for the Brewers. He was so good in the 5 starts that we saw him. Granted, it's a huge disclaimer that it was only 25 innings, but every test he faced, he looked like one of, the best rookie pitchers out there. 9 strikeouts in his debut. Across the 25 innings, 178 ERA, a .99 whip. And Henderson is just, I think he's kind of like a model breaker a little bit, because he's always had really good swing and miss stuff in the minors. And he's got that deception. Another guy who doesn't have huge velocity on the fastball, but he dots it. Like the high lock is fantastic on that. And yeah, when I look at the Brewers, just one, they've been able to flip kind of, the Chad Patricks of the world into serviceable starters. And Henderson has so much more of a foundation that's shown all through the minors. When we saw him last year, he was excellent. I feel like they've been so good at developing pitchers, and he should be a safe bet to be fifth in that rotation. Maybe he could be sneaky volume up to like 160 innings. They're a team that always competes. Henderson with the changeup, with the fastball, that is again kind of a deceptive weapon. I feel like he is one that a lot of people, like a true sense of the word sleeper, like not that many people are circling him because he doesn't have like a wipeout slider or anything. But I feel like it's manageable control, some really deceptive like chase rates, whiff rates. He's induced soft contact. I know that's a tricky skill and can be kind of slippery, but that's been the case all through the minors and when we saw him last year in the majors. So I think Logan Henderson's being kind of slept on at 275 for a guy that looked pretty much flawless at age 23 and 5 starts last year. But talk to me about Henderson. I feel like this is kind of a debatable sleeper call because it's not one that a lot of people are circling.
If stuff models didn't exist, if like velocity readings didn't exist, um, would Logan Henderson be like a top 5 pitching prospect?
Right.
Just based on
Right.
stat line scouting, there isn't a strikeout rate that doesn't start with like a 27% or 28%. There hasn't been a walk rate above 8 in like 2 years. He's had a 10.7% walk rate in high A and 11 innings in his draft year, um, or the year after he was drafted. And then other than that, it's been very good to elite walk rates in the minors. Um, yeah, like the numbers and what he's produced, albeit at the minor league level for the most part, are undeniable. Sure, there are questions with the velocity and the fact that he's not a model breaker, like you said, but based on results, yeah, this is a pretty good one in my mind. You were hyping him up pretty good throughout the whole year, and I was a bit more hesitant, but as much as we can trust these PLV models and how great they are and stuff plus models, there is, credence and weight needs to be put on guys that just get it done that the model may not capture. And Logan Henderson appears to be one of those guys. And it's an organization, right? That's another thing too, right? Like the
Yep.
Brewers get the most out of these guys. Like they definitely are able to see something that other teams cannot, like a few others that we'll talk about here, um,
The mental note.
down the rundown. But when a guy like you trust Logan Henderson on the Brewers, not necessarily Logan Henderson on the Pirates.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the fun side by side is looking at ADP that Joey Cantillo is going like 4 picks before him. And Cantillo is like the ultimate, stuff guy who's got the absurd slider and the extension and everything. But I
Like the
really,
results are never there. Yeah, you gotta hope for it, right? Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And last year I was interested in Cantillo as well. So I think this
Yeah,
will
I
just be
I like
one that,
both. Like you like both of them. It's like you want the red pill or the blue pill. It's like
right, exactly.
there's two ways to go about it, and you could talk yourself into both ways, right? Like a stuff guy that's lights up every model, but hasn't put together a string of 3 usable starts, and then a guy like Logan Henderson that the numbers tell you no, this is not going to hold up, but all he's done is strike out guys and have low threes ERAs at every stop so far he's had in his pro career.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be a fun little breakdown there. But Steve, let's drift into the 300s. I feel like it's a WAF tradition every year to hear you talk about Kodai Senga. So let me hear it this year because we've never been able to get him at 323.
No. And I think I was right the first year, his rookie year, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But since then it's been um pretty disappointing. And a lot of that due to injury. Followed up that 166 innings with a 29% strikeout rate and a 298 ERA with a 5 innings pitch season and a injury riddled 113 innings last year, where it was the K rate dropped just to 23%. The walk rate, was still not great at 11.4%. That's always going to be a problem in this game. His velocity was down to 95 miles an hour on the fastball. He still had a 3.02 ERA, but it came with a 131 whip. Just was not, what you were hoping for. That said, it was an injury riddled season, right? He had a
Right.
shoulder injury to start out of spring, was delayed, had a um in 2024, he had a shoulder injury to start, then a major calf injury. In 2025 was a hamstring. And it's nice that it's not not that any injury isn't nice, but um, it's not
Not
an
an
arm,
arm.
but you could see how hamstring would hurt your velocity. And what's even more exciting is that he looks like he's got the velocity back. It's just been um a live batting practice, but he's hitting 97 miles an hour already. He averaged 94.8 last year. He was at 96 in 2023. So if he gets back to 96, that leaves me some hope that the fastball can play up, that plays up with the splitter, or that the fastball velocity plays up the splitter. That's his elite pitch, that ghost fork.
Hmm.
Um, and I just think like at 323 in like 12 team leagues, that's close to free. And there's a lot of upside there. I know also like there were some trade rumors with him. He told the Mets that he wanted to stay there. So that is nice that you know, they're like, okay, like you're gonna stay here and like let's see if it works. Like, he kind of got what he wanted. He's in a comfortable place. Wanted to be there. I know the Mets rotation is pretty crowded. I think he's currently listed as the sixth starting pitcher, but it's definitely
Hmm.
not like a rotation that if he looks like Kodai Senga in spring, he is going to make starts, whether they go 6 man or whatever else they need to do to fit him in there. Um,
Right.
there's a lot of upside here, and just because it's been 2 seasons in a row, basically lost to injury, I think that's easily forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think another thing with Senga, like you said, the fact that it was a hamstring last year, but it's encouraging that he has been able to go 165 innings in the past. Do you know what I mean? That
Yeah,
like that
he's
that,
proof of
that
concept. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Volume floor has been demonstrated. So yeah, what do the projections have him at for volume? Because I think his ERA projections are like mid threes,
Yeah,
um, high
high
threes.
threes.
Okay.
Most of it's actually pretty crazy. Everything has them between 119 and 127 innings. Um,
Probably just splitting, yeah,
yeah,
using the
like
recent years, but
that's more of like my Bubic projection. I'll kind of flip those, right? Because even with that, like he had 113 innings, which
mhm,
that's exactly what Bubic did this year, but he's never come close to last year. He's never come close to the 166 that he's done. And I know it's a while ago, but Senga's also had 144 innings, 180 innings season back in 2019. So he's gone up there volume wise as recently as 2023.
yeah, yeah. I mean, something to keep an eye on the velo. It's like it's good that it's up, but you also wonder like, is he pushing it? Is there injury risk if he gets back to
Yeah,
that? But
that's
we got
fair.
to go with the info that's in front of us. I think Senga's a great one. Like with the price, you could do a lot worse than drafting a guy that looked like on the fringe of acedom, right? Like
Mm.
2.5 years ago. So I think I like Senga even at 33, age 33. I still think there's
That's another downside too, right? It's harder to project comebacks at that age. It's easy to forget since he's only been here for a little bit. He signed when he was what, age 30, right?
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
bit of a
but it's
downside to it.
for sure, but it's not so deep, right? Like
Yeah.
I know that like we got Sonny Gray at age 37,
Yeah,
150
that's fair.
picks sooner than that. Okay, well, on the other end of the age spectrum, Parker Messick, age 25, Cleveland Guardians, which, just a great pitching factory. It always has been. But Messick is one that I feel like it's starting to become like a bit of a riser or industry favorite. But when we saw him last year, the results for the most part were strong in 7 starts, where he had about a strikeout an inning, a 2.72 ERA. The whip was a little bit higher, despite having such a good walk rate at just 3.6%. But yeah, I would love to hear you talk about Messick, Steve. He's another guy who doesn't have elite velocity on the fastball, but it's pretty effective with swing and miss as well. And it pairs really nicely with the changeup that gets above average whiffs. So Messick is one that you get some ground balls in there as well. Like I could be talked into this, especially with the Guardians backing him. But want to hear your thoughts on Parker Messick. ADP 343. So another like 20 picks behind Kodai Senga.
Yeah, this is my Logan Henderson.
All
Just a
right.
guy that's, just seemingly performed at every stop, right? In 2025 in the minors, he had a 30.2% K rate, an 8% walk rate, a 16% swinging strike rate. He's not a stuff guy. He's, a decently hard throwing for a lefty at 93 with 5+ pitches that he throws 12% of the time. But these like quote unquote softer tossing lefties
True.
seem to be model breakers. Like it's kind of like the Bubic model, right? And then he held his own in 39 big league innings. And it's the same thing with Logan Henderson. Like, what better place than Cleveland to have a guy like this to thrive with someone that might be a model breaker in a sense. He had a new cutter in his first spring outing. Yeah, there's going to be questions with the rotation spot, but they're probably pretty much as questions with most guys' rotation spot at this range too. But
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, these guys get innings, like 6, 7 starters get lots and lots of innings. Um, Throughout the year, one way or the other. So I am pretty excited about Parker Messick and looking forward to what he did, or if he can build on those innings that he had in Cleveland last year.
I feel like this one might be. Did I catch a new acronym from the top 400 pitcher list write up? That this is a swatch, the southpaw with a tight
There you go.
changeup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's it.
because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
You don't need as much velocity, and the changeup is really good. So I feel like even looking at that rotation, I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying here, but Logan Allen as the SP4. I know we just talked about Cantillo at SP5, Slade Ciccone at SP3. Like, to me, I feel like they could probably find a way to get him in there. Last year they had to have liked what they saw from Parker Messick. So we'll see. Let's keep rolling though. So our next name, we've got one that we have talked about over the long and cold winter. And
Mhm.
Steve, it's I don't know about you, but I'd be happy to anoint him a WAF favorite sleeper. But Cody Ponce on the Blue Jays, who is not kind of completely reinvented himself from his time overseas in the KBO. And man, this is one that the Blue Jays didn't wait long, which was also really telling that they kind of pounced on Cody Ponce. And uh, to me, I think when I just look at like 6'6" frame, huge extension, unlocked a ton of swing and miss stuff over in Korea. He had that record setting like 15 strikeout game or whatever it was, a kick change that he added over there. And I think he's already looked good in spring, but add all that together with an awesome defense behind him. I know it's kind of a tough division where he'll face some tests, but I am really interested in Kodai Senga or Kodai Senga, Cody Ponce.
Cody Ponce. Yeah.
What do you think on Ponce here?
Have we mentioned him on like every offseason episode? It's pretty
At
close.
least, at least a couple. Yeah, at least
Yeah,
a couple.
yeah, definitely one of the most talked about, like, KBO signings. Uh, did not have that on my bingo card heading into this offseason. But yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. Um, 108 innings, 36% percent strikeout rate. The velocity super impressive. It looks like that held up so far in some of his like spring training warmups. I don't know if he's had an official outing yet. Um, it may have actually been today. I think I saw TJ Stats, one of those cards, come out about it, and like he was at 96, which is super impressive.
Yeah, he hit 97, 1
Yeah,
inning, 2 strikeouts, no hits. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
and
about
he
his
was at
timing.
93, like when he was bouncing around between the minors and majors in 2021 with the Pirates. Um,
Why do we
so
think that why is the ADP as low as it is my question. Like, if this wasn't kind of a journeyman who is coming back over, you know what I mean? Like, it's just ADP
yeah,
seems crazy.
and I mean the rotation spot seems pretty secure, right? And the Blue Jays signed him like right away, right? I know they added Cease, but they also have you Savage, who is their SP3 now, but it just came out that like he's going to be limited in a sense, right? So like that's even before any potential IL stints for anyone else. You can count, 50 innings up for grabs there, and he slotted in for the fifth slot, right? And you would think that like maybe it's been a bit since Merrill Kelly came over and came back and looked good. Like who else has it been? On the White when he came back on the White Sox and was just okay. Still bouncing around. I can't think of the name.
Me
Maybe
neither.
because there hasn't been as big a success stories from the KBO recently, but Cody Ponce could be one. We also have another one later on as a teaser, another KBO signing that I like as a sleeper. But yeah, I would imagine that like if he comes out and has like a guy that we didn't talk about that could be on this rundown, like a Ryan Weathers type start, like where Weathers went 3 innings today, like 6 strikeouts, whatever, and was hitting 99. um, that ADP is going to shoot up. Like if Ponce does that and like this kick change looks ridiculous and he has velocity and that's an announced role in the starting rotation, like he could easily be going in the late 200s, maybe even sooner.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. For now, I think, it couldn't be a better buying opportunity. I'm, again, just surprised with all the kind of raw tools, the performance, and, like, the team indicators that it's not higher than 367, but, it was a good tease, Steve, and we've got more names that are coming up after this ad break. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this. Okay, Steve, another one that has been on the show so far in the offseason, but I love the name here. Mike Burrows at ADP 383. Burrows was the one that kind of, while everybody was wringing their hands over the Pirates not calling up Bubba Chandler last year, it was Mike Burrows who came up and quietly looked pretty good. And now we get a move to the Astros. And Burrows is one that, yeah, we got to look at here. I think it's pretty interesting. At just age 26, last year he had 19 starts, strikeout per inning, 394 ERA is passable. The whip wasn't great, but this is a guy who's got some interesting stuff, and I think the Astros already have plans for him. But changeup has been kind of the theme of the show so far. 43% whiff rate on the changeup for Burrows, throws it 24% of the time. So definitely a really, really good foundation there. Not a lefty, so we can't call him a swatch. But yeah, talk about Burrows, Steve, and if we're back in on kind of an Astros, if we're calling it a reclamation project, I think it's more just them kind of developing a breakout here
Real quick, just to go back, I actually pinged Kyle Bland on the side as we were
for the
looking at
KBO
this
name.
because he built an amazing Streamlit app like he always does for NFBC draft data. And Cody Ponce is the second biggest riser since 10-15. He was at going like 690 in October, and he's down to I think it may be even lower as far as what like the overall ADP um, numbers are there. So yeah, big rise on that. on that
Real quick,
for
I'm
Cody
happy to
Ponce.
stick there for a second. Ponce's volume projections. Oopsie has him at 177 innings. They got a 4.02 ERA, and they have him at like 9 strikeouts per 9. But the volume projections up there in the 170s is really encouraging. So yeah,
Yeah, like if you're drafting on projections, like that's like he's got to be a buy like everywhere, right? Based on that.
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to even just scroll up pictures. Like if you moved him all the way up to 205 territory, well, there's like Cade Horton, Carlos Rodon. Like that's a little bit tough, but I think once you Bubic is 223. I'm just trying to see. I think I would honestly, I think I would draft him over Jack Flaherty, who's at 228. What do you think about that? Like if
I
you
think
were
that's
playing
fair.
chicken. Okay.
I think
Okay.
that's fair. I would do the same.
Okay. All right. Anyway, let's get back to Mike Burrows here. Your thoughts on the 26-year-old Astro?
Yeah, I mean, and tell me if you've stop me if you heard this one before, but Houston Astros acquire a former Pirates top prospect. Um, you know, next step, question mark, question mark, question mark. Step three, profit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he was good, like you said, in the 25 in the his 96 innings last year in 2025. Very respectable at 3.94 ERA, 24% strikeout rate, 7.7% walk rate is, good. Um, or at least close to average. And a 124 whip, that's not great, gives up a lot of hits, but he added a tick. He increased his slider usage. That was his best pitch by Stuff Plus, or second or above average pitch by Stuff Plus. So you love to see that. And go to an organization that optimizes those pitch mix. Like, look at what happens. Whenever they acquire, someone at the deadline or just in the off season, they're going to give their best effort to get the best out of them. It's not always going to work, but the Astros are someone that I still, to this day, trust to optimize pitch usage, and I think that could potentially come for Burrows and make him be a good profit at this current ADP of 383.
Yeah, here's an extra sell on Burrows is like, and I'm no pitch expert, but when you have a pretty effective four seamer in terms of like velocity, the changeup is definitely like the calling card. Like it's one of the better pitches probably in that Astros rotation. The slider, which was at 87 miles per hour last year, had just about average, if not below average, whiff rates, but was pretty good at like hit suppression. The slider is what he's worked on throughout the offseason. And a few days ago in his spring debut, the slider was several ticks higher at 90.6 miles per hour with more vertical break. And he got 2 whiffs on 3 pitches. So these are microscopic sample sizes, but there's some buzz about Burrows having worked on the slider and it taking a step forward. And I feel like that's the type of thing where like it would have a nonlinear impact to what his arsenal can do. You know what I mean? Like if you already have an elite change and then you add a slider.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you said, man, the Astros, they've done this a lot of times before, and they've done it in more surprising circumstances than like a promising 26-year-old. So yeah, I think he's definitely got my attention, and you can't beat the price at high 300s, right?
Yeah, I mean, Musgrove, Cole. Obviously, Cole was a ridiculous outcome, but like, it just amazing. Like, if there's another Pirates prospect that prospers with the Astros, that would just be
Yeah.
kind of hilarious.
Well, and just in general, like we talked about, I think some of Kikuchi's best steps
Yeah,
forward
yeah,
or with the
hmm
Astros, like they've been
yeah.
able to
That
do this
second
with a
half
lot of.
after that's who I was thinking of as a trade acquisition. Yeah, they
Mhm.
do great stuff with that. Like, they identify when they acquire someone, there's good reason behind it. Not that every team doesn't do that, but they probably have a plan, or they do have a plan to optimize these guys. Where is he? Is he slated into their rotation currently?
That is a
Uh,
good question. I just closed
he
out a
is.
roster research.
Their SP5, and another um, guy who another teaser here is their SP6 is also on this list. So Yeah, but I mean, that's also Christian Javier is SB2, Lance McCullers is SB4, like, they're and the Astros are known to go 6 men deep, pretty regularly as is. So, yeah, Mike Burrows is gonna start a good amount of games this year.
Yeah. Well, another guy we were talking about throughout the season last year, and maybe if there was like a line chart, Steve, for pitcher excitement across all fantasy pitchers, I think the very top of the mountain last year was probably Max Meyer.
Uh-huh.
That it is just shocking. If you could have told us then what we know now that his ADP would be 503, we would have thought we were in an alternate universe because he had that 14 strikeout game. I think everybody had, insane FOMO if you lost out on him on like a fab run. And then it all kind of imploded when he had the hip injury, but it was an injury. And already, in spring, we've seen his slider be unhittable, which is, again, he's a guy who doesn't have like an elite fastball in terms of velocity or extension. So he does kind of rely on that quite a bit. But man, like when it's working for Max Meyer, he's got some of the best stuff in terms of just like swing and miss. And that's what we saw glimpses of. He's probably the biggest combustible lotto ticket that you can get, but who cares when it's at pick 500? Don't bother looking at the back of the baseball card last year because it all turned ugly after that,
Mhm.
peak that he had. But a ground ball pitcher with an absurd slider that's already shown the ability to completely dominate oppositions, for I think it was probably like a 3 or 4 game stretch. And of course, a massive prospect pedigree. It wasn't a name that came out of nowhere. So still just 26-year-old with the Marlins, who can develop pitching. What do we make of Max Meyer here? Is he a target or is it somebody that you're just going to be watching closely throughout spring?
I think it's a target. Like uh, like you said, there was no one that wasn't in on Max Meyer. You know, my, you know, my wife who doesn't know a strikeout from a balk, and couldn't be the least interested in fantasy baseball was in on Max Meyer last year. Um,
His
and
April, his April,
it
Steve,
was right.
40,
Like
40 strikeouts in 28 innings.
he
Like,
added 2 pitches, like the slider, the changeup were ridiculous. He added velocity, like it was a former top prospect, like everything was there and it was right. And then it wasn't. And then he had hip surgery, but I think it's easy to forget that he wasn't right and things went wrong because he was pitching through a hip injury. It wasn't like he got hurt and then stopped pitching. No, he came out and said, and the team said that it affected him for the last few starts, which is why those numbers look putrid. I kind of glad that happens because that's why he's going around pick 500. Um, that being said, um, there definitely still is risk in the fact that like a hip injury is, that's like the major mover in the kinetic chain to pitching. I'm not going to get into like I know how that works fully and the science behind it and the mechanics of that, but yeah, that's scary. That being said, he looked pretty good in his 1 inning so far in spring. If he continues to do that, the hype could get picked up again. Um, and we could be back exactly where we were um, with his first 30 innings. Yeah, he had another 34 innings that just weren't good. In the first 30 innings this year, he had a 14 strikeout game, a 41 to 7 strikeout to walk ratio. It was as good as it can get up until um, that Seattle start on April 27th. And then he just was not the same since then. Like he had,
mhm.
you know, some of the like it just completely fell off a cliff, and he was clearly pitching injured. And
And
those
he,
things could get progressive too, right? Like it could hurt one time, not hurt, then like get it checked out, and you realize what you're battling through. So, um, Yeah, there was a decent, there was essentially a month there that was not good. But I think the fact that, there is this reasoning that we could look back at. Yeah, it's concerning because, you have to recover from the injury, but there's a reason why he didn't perform. And if he looks healthy, it's exciting.
Yeah, and 'tis the season to just get excited, especially when it's a guy with a 500 ADP. But yeah, every one of the only four sliders he threw in that inning against the Cardinals, every single one was a whiff. And last year, I feel like something that I'm just like, it's dawning on me looking at Meyer's page, just a 7% walk rate through all of those struggles last year. So it's not like, a lot of these kind of stuff specialist youngsters, you're worried about like a 12% walk rate. Like
Yeah.
if there's a little bit of control to go with the elite slider and I just feel like the ground ball rate is there. To me, it's not that hard to imagine him, kind of revisiting where he's at, health pending, but of course it's baked into the cost. So yeah, that's Max Meyer. We were gushing about him last May, and now you can get him at pick 500. So Steve, you teased Mike Burrows' teammate Ryan Weiss at ADP 683, and yeah, it's another KBO guy. It's another Astro. What do we think of Ryan Weiss here? I feel like you've given me the sell before on him, but he's not one this deep into drafts that I'm really thinking about. It's a name on the radar, but sell me on Ryan Weiss in the sleeper case here.
Yeah, I think I'm okay to say this now because it was a while ago and Nick was like promoting, some PL Pro memberships, but he basically gave away one of his favorite sleepers, and said he was only saying it in the Discord, to get people to join, and it was Ryan Weiss. I think there may have been a few other guys there, or maybe there's one other, but he definitely mentioned Ryan Weiss. But yeah, another KBO signing, another guy that was really, really good over there. Probably who could have been the MVP if not for Cody Ponce. But at
Mhm.
178 innings, a 287 ERA, a 102 whip, 28.6% strikeout rate, just a 7.7% walk rate. The velocity is up 2 miles an hour versus 2023. He went back to like the fastball slider mix that he originally came up as a prospect in the majors, after tinkering with like a sinker, um, as his main pitch, and then went back to the fastball in the KBO, added a curve, has a good sweeper, like, good numbers on that. Shout out Lance Brozdowski for a lot of that write up when he was signed by the Astros on far as breaking down the pitch metrics. Be sure to check that out on his Substack. But yeah, he is intriguing. Is currently slotted in as the sixth starter for the Astros, but another, you know, I think that's kind of a theme here. Like, find something that you like about a pitcher, and then find an organization that optimizes these guys, and there you go. There you have some sleepers. I think it's a good formula, and one that I think maybe is a little bit underrated. Like, you don't think of team context with starters, right? Maybe for wins in the sense, but for hitters, it's like, okay, like who's protecting them around the lineup? You want guys in better lineups. You don't necessarily need a starter in like a better rotation, right? But you need a
Mhm.
starter in organizations that get the most out of these guys. And the Astros are definitely one of them, and I'm interested in Ryan Weiss.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's encouraging to see that in the KBO last year he threw 178 innings. Like, that these days in the majors, that type of volume is kind of the old 200 innings. So that's a pretty good floor. The Astros have done a six-man rotation in the past, right?
Yeah, yeah, they frequently use 6-man rotation. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of surprising to see his volume projections as low as they are. Maybe it's just because of the unknown of like how his actual performance will be or if they'll mess around with it. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. I know it's a KBO, but when you look at 180 innings of a 287 ERA and well over a strikeout per inning, like I think there's plenty to be interested in with the 60 grade slider. So 6'4". He's now a small guy. What's he? Let's go to the extension charts here. That's where my head always goes, Steve. But yeah, some of these names because we've talked about them a couple times this offseason, it's just shocking to me that these names are going as deep as, free, even in like 15-team leagues. So I don't even have an extension read on Savant for Weiss. Okay, that'll be my homework assignment to check that out. But yeah, it's a great name there. And then another one we got at the end here, even deeper, Carlos Lagrange, who is throwing gas, 102. Steve, I have no idea. You're going to have to sell me on this one. But I love the deep shot starting with 102 miles per hour. Talk to me about Carlos Lagrange. School me.
Yeah, exciting Yankee prospect. Hitting 102 miles an hour in the spring. Last year in the minors, at 120 innings pitched, a 33% strikeout rate, a 12.3% walk rate. Yikes. A 3.53 ERA, a 120 WHIP. This was all between high A and double A. But another sort of guy that has my attention. He's been in the news here in New York as someone that struck out Aaron Judge like in live batting practice, things like that, and looks extremely great by stuff. And all the Yankees beat writers are excited about him. But also for the fact that, hey, the Yankees have developed these guys, pretty well recently. Luis Heel comes to mind. Cam Schlittler comes to mind. I'm not saying he's as polished as either of those guys, but it's a similar mold, right? Guys with extremely high stuff, extremely live and hard fastballs, walk rates that, are hard to deal with, but they make work because they strike out the world. Um, it's been 2 years in a row now with Heel and then Slitler. I think Lagrange could be three in a row for the Yankees this year. I know it's maybe a little bit more of a long shot because he's only been in double A. I think I'm not sure if he'll pitch past double A the year that he first came up. I want to look that up um, as I do this here. Yeah, no, he didn't.
They just
He
rushed him
or
up.
no, he had 21 innings there in 2022. So not
And then he
much.
briefly was relief,
Yeah.
I believe Heel was, and then he kind of
Yeah.
converted.
Yeah.
But even so, I mean, Rodon is supposed to return around like maybe early May or late
Yeah.
April. Garrett Cole a month after that, and you certainly
It's
wouldn't wish
crowded.
it.
Yeah.
It's crowded, but also like, has Ryan Weathers been the picture of health, especially with him pumping
Sure.
out more
Same with Heel.
velocity?
Yeah.
Yeah, same with Heel. And with Heel, I just wonder if ultimately he's bound for the bullpen when some of those other guys come back. So, yeah, if nothing else, it is a terrific name to kind of watch list. So, I like that for Carlos Lagrange. Why don't we take a second ad break, and then Steve will just kind of open it up and jump into some names that we think are interesting throughout the board. But we're going to take our second ad break, and we'll be right back after this. All right. So, Steve, like I mentioned, I feel like there's a handful of names that we can just kind of spin the globe, if you will, and look at. But Rogers was one that jumped out to me early on, where are you? I know you were in last year. When you see 174 as a ADP, is that landing at a spot that you feel is appropriate, or are you with me that like Rogers is kind of the regression's gone too far on him? Because last year we saw 109 innings, 18 starts with a 181 ERA, a .90 WHIP. The Orioles obviously finding something that the Marlins couldn't after initially developing, but I get that it won't be that good. I just feel like we've overcorrected in the past on some of these like regression candidates. I still think that Rogers should have really solid ratios, have a team that wins a lot. And I feel like people are just kind of ignoring the results that we saw just because he doesn't have like, a pitch that he uses half the time that is either 98 miles per hour or has like a 40% whiff rate. But he strikes me as a pitcher's pitcher that like gets a lot of results, and maybe the underlying stuff doesn't back it up. But yeah, this is deep for a guy that we just saw 20 starts of like top 15 pitcher outcomes. But what are your thoughts on Rogers?
This is not analysis at all, but just when doing research for this show, or not deep analysis, but when I was on roster resource and on the Orioles page, it's like, wow, they have Trevor Rogers listed as their SP1. I'm like, okay, that I guess that makes sense. Like he was really good last year. Like I had him in several leagues, and he was my best pitcher by far. Someone that I did not that's something that I did not expect. Um, that being said, like I guess I'm cautiously optimistic. One, the volume. Two, the K rate was good, not great or elite. Um, the walk rate was really good, best of his career. That's what I think is the most encouraging. There were some signs that maybe it was a bit lucky. I mean, obviously, a 181 ERA is a bit lucky, right?
Right. Yeah, of course.
A .49 homers per nine, that's not going to stay the same. An 84.2% left on base percentage, that's not going to stay the same. But you're not drafting him for 181 ERA. You're drafting him for like a low to mid
Low, yeah,
threes ERA. And you know, a pretty good whip, right? Because when he's been healthy, right, and it's been a while, but the 2021, like that came with a really good whip in 133 innings. Even in, like, last year, yeah, the .90 that you can't project that, but he's clearly good at suppressing hits and now walks too, at least in the 109 innings. So, um, yeah, I guess it's fair. Yeah, maybe it's not a sleeper, but it's like, yeah, this is something that the market's not fully bought in on. But like if you were just drafting, and you should obviously never do this, but if you were just drafting based on last year's results, like he should go much higher, like on a per inning basis, like what he did there. There weren't many that could match him in basically any category.
Yeah, it's just good. I mean, very good fastball changeup combination and good command. And I think at his age, they're going to let him go. Looks like a lot of the projections have him at like 145, 150 innings. Um,
Yeah, he's a free agent after this year, right? Like, so he
mhm,
has the incentive. The Orioles have the incentive to let him go. Like the Orioles made every single win now move possible this offseason.
yeah,
So if he's healthy, he's going.
yeah. No, I like it. Another one that you and I haven't talked about that is interesting as well is Joe Musgrove, who
Mm.
is down at, where is Musgrove? Pick 245. And Musgrove, like, I think we've all just forgotten, right? Because we didn't see him all last year because he had the TJ, right, in 2024? Or was it just like an elbow surgery? Um, but Musgrove is one that, like,
He
in
had
his,
TJ. He had TJ. Yeah.
okay, so he's kind of back on like the honeymoon. I know, again, he's 33 years old, but like Joe Musgrove was a guy that, like, 3 years ago, we saw him have sub 3 ERA, 108 whip, strikeout per inning. He's thrown, back to back seasons. He had 180 innings pitched. Like, I know this is the most extreme example, but there were bigger mountains to climb for an established like Brandon Woodruff last year. And we were like, what if Woodruff is kind of like half the guy that he was? And he ended up being, insane last year. I mean, it was some of his best like strikeout stuff, even with losing velocity. It just makes me wonder, like, listen, I'm not saying we need to be drafting Joe Musgrove in like the top 150 picks, but if we're looking for sleepers, there's so many like shiny toys out there,
Mhm.
but Musgrove is one that's like proven he can be an excellent pitcher not that long ago. And this is 245 on ADP. Like, that is pretty deep. I think he is one that I'm interested in compared to some of the guys around there that you're just kind of hoping and wishing. But I don't know. Are you going to be in on Musgrove, or are you just kind of scared off? I feel like you've been in on like TJ recovery guys in the past, or is this 1 year too soon for you?
No, I think it's pretty interesting. It's remarkable how consistent he was basically from like 2020 through 2023. mid to low threes ERA, good whip, 25% ish strikeout rate. And I apologize, I got that wrong. He was Astros. That he went the other way in the Cole trade, I think. So
Oh,
he credit to the Pirates there. He actually did kind of break out there, though he did have his best years in San Diego post Pittsburgh. So,
yeah.
yeah, no, I think it could be. It is kind of a forgotten guy here, right? Like, this is a guy that like has consistently been at like a 20% strikeout minus walk rate, which is really good. Yeah, like, that comes from a lower strikeout rate, a lower walk rate than it does like a exorbitant strikeout rate. But hey, you still take that. Like this guy is a good pitcher, but it's it's pretty. It's pretty exciting. Like he's considered a full participant in spring training, but we'll have his workload watch um, early in the season after missing the entire 2025 campaign. But that being said, like it was early-ish. The first 40% or so of the or first the first half of the 2024 season, right? So he missed that year and a half kind of with all of last year.
What
um
in 2024 going into that year, he was probably like in the ADP 80
he
range, right?
he threw 97 innings in 2023 too, so I don't know where he was, or I don't remember
Okay,
offhand
so
what that injury was. So he did not have a full season. He only made 17 starts in 2023 too.
yeah, so it
um
was right. So in 2023 it was a right shoulder, and then in
okay.
2024 it was right elbow. So like,
Okay. Yep.
yeah, I mean it's been a while since, if he is big if quote unquote fully healthy, like they're saying, the last time we saw that was 2022.
2023 or
Well, in terms
2023.
of,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
a full
Last time we got
season.
a full workload was 20, and, like, you can't project a full workload the year,
No way,
and I
no.
know it's, like, it's kind of good, right, because the Tommy John happened so long ago in the first half of 2024, but it's, like, it's almost sometimes nice when you see, like, those 10 innings, right, at the end of the
Mhm,
season, just as, like, a proof of concept. I know that pitchers talk about that and like to be able to say, I like that fact that I felt sore the next day and recovered and got through whatever, even though it was a few starts. That's why you see sometimes these guys come back and
sure.
just make a few, even if they're like meaningless starts at the end of the season. So that on the one hand is, a bit concerning since we haven't seen him, but hey, maybe we do see him in spring and he looks like Joe Musgrove again. But,
Yeah,
draft now, you can get that at that discounted price.
yeah, one to watch to see because, again, I feel like he's not the type of name that will soar up the boards, just because people are looking for, like, the newer pitchers that are on the ascent,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
to
It's
speak,
easy
but
to skip over for sure.
yep. Any other names, Steve, as you're scanning around that we just wanna kinda jump in on?
I
Um
don't know, not to give me one more, not to put you on the spot. I don't know if you had anyone. I know, a few of these, you wanted to hit on some more names. I don't know if you had one, on the top of mind, not to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah, there's been a handful. Let me just scan because I've been going through actual like draft prep on this. I mean, we've talked about Zebby on the show, but he is still very much one
Mhm.
that like I think at some point the stuff and the swing and miss has to match up with kind of positive regression on actual results. So I think Zebby going at pick 313 is a really interesting one. One I'd like to punch in on is Braxton Ashcraft at 295 because he is kind of the stuff master. I know that, and I'm doing this in real time too because I know that he is one that was in like Saris's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
write ups and everything. So looking at Ashcraft, age 26, again, it's like a Pittsburgh Pirates themed show. But last year we saw 70 innings. Okay, yeah, 85th percentile ground ball rate, reasonable control with like an 8% walk rate. So where is all this stuff coming from? What pitch is it? So it looks like, yeah, I mean, his slider is above average, but the curveball, it looks like is far and away his best like whiff pitch. So he's got a really good curveball. He's got a
Throws
slider
it
as
more
well,
throws it more
8th.
to lefties and righties though. So,
Mm,
it is better for the, um for the reverse platoon, in a sense, which is nice. Like, right, you have something that can fight the platoon advantage, but
but it's not
also
going
it's
to be your
not something that you're gonna be
go-to.
throwing. There's more righties than lefties, so you
Yep.
throw that less often,
Yeah.
just based on, if you use it more versus lefties, you're gonna throw it less often because there are less lefties, right?
Yep, that makes sense. But yeah, 97 miles per hour to go with like a serviceable slider and a
Yeah,
good
a nine I mean,
curveball.
it's a 92-mile-an-hour slider, right? Like,
Mm,
that's not hard to
get
to get
excited.
something out of that, right? Like, it has a
Right.
32% whiff percentage, like, there's definitely a lot to work with there, right? Like, I know that I think, mentioned it before, like, but, like, essentially, if you're throwing a slider that fast, it can't not be good. You
Yeah.
know, it's gonna be good at that velocity, like, it's like,
Right. It's
that's why
moving.
DeGrom throws a
It's
slider,
moving and it's too fast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he's slotted at the SP3. So let's peek at what his projections are. So the prospect, that's a 70 grade slider. Um, okay, so prospect grades have the slider above the curve, but the curves
Yeah.
had better swing and miss stuff so far. So, mm, oopsie has him in 147 innings.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's came out that he's expected to start in the rotation, so, that's projected there. I mean, all the projection systems has him between, or all but one, Zips has him at 107, but the rest of them have between 130 and, like, 150, as
Mm,
far as the endings go with, and I take the over, like, on all those strikeout rates. The Bat X, which now has pitcher projections, which is pretty cool because they use their own stuff model, has them at 22%. Same with Oopsie. So, yeah, there's there's a lot to like here. The Pirates could have a sneaky good rotation.
yes, they could. They could. Yeah, there's stuff to shop for in this range. Like Cantillo is here, Logan Henderson, Ryan Weathers, but like you said, he'll probably be moving up. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
Sean Manaea,
let,
we've talked
let
about
me.
on the show too. Like, there's a lot. Yeah, you want to go in on
Yeah,
Weathers
on
here?
weathers, like, I'm pulling up Kyle's app here, because it just does a great job of, like, the 14-day rolling draft data, um, and just, like, uh, I wish I could share my screen with you right now. There's just, like, an absolute mountain hill going up to climb on Ryan Weathers'
My
rolling draft
gosh.
data. He's at 268 and, like, climbing the min pick at 220. Um, it's just, yeah, it's pretty insane, and with what he just did in his first start today, for the Yankees, that's only going to get more and more. Like, I think Weathers is going to be the Max Meyer of 2026.
Yeah,
Like,
where
is
it's just
everybody's going to be in on him.
pricier and pricier.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I was in last year. I drafted him. I was
yeah,
excited, and
yeah,
yeah, there were moments, but I think the above almost any other name, it's like he gives me the injury woes just with his
sure,
history and the fact
yeah,
that he keeps like adding velocity. It's like,
yeah. Can
almost the
he
the
can he
DeGrom thing.
hold up on this? It's crazy if you go to, like, his like, Fangraphs page. The fastball velocity is, like, one of my columns I have there. Just 93.9, 95.2, 96.2, 96.8, and then it just keeps on going up and up and up, which is awesome. Like, we want this. Like, wow, it's so exciting. But then it's like, okay, can his body handle this? Like, is it possible for him to throw at this velocity? He has not had more than 86 innings at the major league level. Oh, sorry, 94. Now, that was back in 2021. Crazy.
What was that with the
When he was throwing
Padres?
94.
Was that with the
Yeah, with the
Padres
Padres. Yep, that
before
was
all
with the
that? Yeah,
Padres. Yep,
man,
that
that
was with
feels
the
like a
Padres.
million
Yeah.
years ago.
Dude,
Um,
and, like, this is Max. He's a first round pick, seventh overall. This is Max Meyer all over again.
yeah, for real. Yeah, and Weathers, I feel like he wasn't like in the Padres era. It feels like a different pitcher. Like I remember talking about him like more of a
Yeah.
command artist and stuff. Like people were looking for uh what to get excited because he had like some really good starts that didn't have underlying metrics, and we were
Yeah.
like trying to talk ourselves into it and everything. Yeah. It's a great name. I mean, I love that late 200s section of the draft when it comes to pitching. Like there's already 6 or 7 names in that area. Some of them that we talked about. Like literally you can look at a 12 pitcher list that goes from Cantillo, Logan Henderson, Ryan Weathers, Sean Manaea, Braxton Ashcraft, Grayson Rodriguez, super interesting. Kind of everybody's moving on, but we brought up Kodai Senga on the show, Cody
Jack
Ponce.
Leiter, I love. I think he could be on this list. Like
Burrows
Matthew
is right
Ward,
here.
I
Like
think is like a good boring name. Shane McClanahan, a name a lot of people have talked about. Zach Gallen, I think, is good for a bounce back. I know it's a bit earlier, but yeah, there's Sean Manaea. Like talk about unlucky last year. Like
oh yeah, Manaea is just straight up
yeah.
undervalued there. Like
Soriano,
he's
like
more established. Yep.
As stuff is stuff. Like if you're a stuffist, that's the best stuff that you can get. Andrew Painter, like there's every type of pitching sleeper that you like here. The top prospect and former top prospect that battled injury.
I think what this translates to is we're gonna have some extreme FOMO in like home leagues and just like overreaction.
With like your last 5, in your home leagues, make sure your last 5 picks are all like starting pitchers because they're all guys that
very
like,
dart worthy. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that was a blast talking through all those guys. I mean, of this list, I'm gonna just see which 1 or 2 are you kind of circling.
Let's narrow it down. If you could only pick one on this list, who would you pick?
For me, it's Cody Ponce. Like if he's the one that if I'm envisioning my home league and my rival, which of these names, if they grabbed him, would I be most frustrated with? It's Cody Ponce. Burrows is interesting too. I'm starting to get excited about Burrows. What's your thought?
If I could pick one,
and it's got to be ADP. You got to factor in ADP because Bubic is more expensive than the rest. You know what I mean?
For me, it's Weathers. It's Weathers.
Okay. I mean, you're.
I know the track record isn't there, but I think he may have the highest upside of the group. Max Meyer too, dude. Like he's close. He's close for me as well. Like especially if he starts to look good in spring. Like
I was just about to say. I think of all the names,
he was great.
Of all these names, the ones I'm going to watch the closest in spring that we've talked about, I would say is Max Meyer, and then I am interested in what Joe Musgrove looks like in spring, just because he was never a big velocity guy. He was just kind of like a deep arsenal guy who got several pitches to be good, and it all equaled great. So yeah, he's one that if he's looking like he's getting whiffs and not a big drop on velocity or something, I think he could be kind of a sneaky volume play. So, okay. So from here, we're going to be in March, Steve. So I think we are flipping back over to weekly shows. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we're back. And for all you guys, thanks for joining. It's going to be an exciting March, ramping up to and through draft season. And we'll be every Thursday or every Wednesday night and Thursday morning. So as always, thanks for talking baseball with us.
Thanks, guys. Later.